Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Tuesday. Basketball is back. I should say NBA basketball is back, I suppose. Make sure that you do subscribe right here to the channel before I get into anything else, anything more pressing. Subscribe right here to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications and go check out our Substack, basketballbulletin.substack.com. Tons of great stuff going up there. Keith, it was weird last night. No NBA playoff games on. I've become so accustomed to every evening just flipping on the various playoff games that are on. There was a sense of loss, there was a sense of emptiness, and it was very, very sad.
Yeah, you probably know better than anybody else that as much as I'm excited for the conference finals and the finals, like I get sad at this time of year because at the very most we have 21 NBA games left at the very
Oof.
most, and we're probably not going to get 3 7 game series here over the final 3 series of the year. So I get a little bit bummed out. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the off season and all that stuff,
Sure.
but like we're getting down to it. Thankfully, there is the Olympics this summer to get you
Mhm.
through. And I am gonna
It's
full
summer league.
on throw myself. Yeah, summer league. Yep. And I'm gonna full on throw myself into the WNBA this summer. A lot of people have
Mhm.
been asking me. I have not yet, and I won't yet, only because I don't need like another thing right now. Like that's the
Exactly.
only reason why. I've just got too many other things going on, and when I'm not focused on the games that are going on right now and the like, I end up watching a lot of stuff on free agents and guys who are coming up. I'm kind of constantly tweaking my rankings there and adjusting and those kind of things. I just spent a couple hours this morning watching some G League film of some two-way guys, so I'm a little bit better prepared for when they hit free agency here in roughly a month in a week or so now, where we're almost that close out. So yeah, and then the other time I'm spending on draft prospects, trying to get caught up on some of the guys I've missed there. I think I'm about 35-ish guys deep on that now. So I just I'll watch the WNBA, but that's going to be a summertime thing for me once the NBA season is really wrapped up and the off season is mostly complete.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same spot where, I put out there on X last night that I didn't know what to do with myself. And a bunch of people said, oh, watch the WNBA. There's, some great games on and all of that. I was like just getting home. And so I couldn't just throw that game on just yet. I missed the tail end of it. And I know you've got Caitlin Clark doing some crazy things right now. And that's generated a lot of excitement. And it's cool because had this been a year ago, 2 years ago, if I said, I don't know what to do with myself, like, one person would have said watch the WNBA. So like that in and of itself is a sign of how much that league is growing. And of course we'll have baseball to watch and everything, but still there's just something about NBA basketball that hits a different level. It scratches that itch. So I'm nervous about what things are going to be like when the NBA is not on, because the summer, it certainly doesn't feel this way to players, I'm sure, but it is such a long summer. It feels like an eternity while we're waiting for basketball to come back.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now I do like this year. I've kind of come around to, other than the fact that it kind of wreaks havoc with traveling out there for summer league. That summer league's
Sure.
a little bit later, because I like the idea that we could really focus in on that first part of free agency, because it's almost 2 weeks into free agency before summer league will start. Then we get summer league, and that's going to flow almost right directly into the Olympics, which will be a lot of fun too. So, and beyond Olympic basketball, like I love the Olympics. Like I'm the one who like starts yelling at the TV during kayaking, which I know absolutely nothing about, or archery and
Paddle
like all these
faster.
things. Right. Yeah. Like I'm like by the end of like an hour of archery, I'm like, oh, her elbow's too high. It's not gonna be good. And then like I get all like fired up about it. But yeah, and then yeah, man, I throw myself fully into the Olympics. We have a blast in the Smith House watching that. So yeah, it's going to be a fun summer of sports with all that stuff going on. We got European Euro soccer this year too, European championships going on over the summertime too. So that'll be fun to watch. So yeah, it's all around. It'll be a good time. But yeah, NBA, man, we're down to it now.
Mhm. By the end of the Olympics, you're convinced that you could be Hawkeye, right? That kind of stuff's going on. But it's at least we do have that coming up this summer. But anyway, let's get into our NBA news topics for today. We need to talk about the Suns. Devin Booker, could he potentially want out? What do things look like in Phoenix? We'll talk about that. The Lakers, we've got a coaching search update there, and then we're going to talk about the two conference final series. We'll talk about Pacers Celtics. We'll talk about Wolves Mavs, and break down what we expect to happen in those series. But again, let's kick things off here with Devin Booker not wanting to get traded. Reportedly, from a cap situation, you look at the Suns and you're like, man, they kind of need to trade one of their big three to give themselves a little bit of breathing room because they're really, really stuck. And this could turn bad. Should this next season not go the way they want, they could really wind up stuck for a long time. And we've talked about that. But Devin Booker doesn't want to get traded. I know the Suns are not looking to move on from their big three, nor would I expect them to. I don't think they could move on from Bradley Beal, even if they wanted to. The return would be not great given that no trade clause. But Phoenix is an interesting situation where they're committed. They have to go for it. And it's going to be about making moves around these guys. And the fact that Devin Booker wants to stay, that's not a surprise to me. I would be more surprised if he went, okay, cool, KD, Bradley Beal, 1 year, and nah, I didn't like this, I'm out. I fully expected him to want to stay in the Valley and see if they can make another run out of next year.
I agree. I think more than anybody, this is his team there in Phoenix. Kevin Durant is the longtime star. Bradley Beal has the massive contract and all that, and he's the veteran guy. But this is Booker's team. They both came to his team, not necessarily like this was not a sign up to join his team situation, but that's how it played out in the end. So I am fairly certain he will be the last one of the three standing, unless it turns into we have to make a major trade here and we just got too great of an offer that allows us to really reset everything by trading Devin Booker. But I don't think we're headed that direction. James Jones, we talked about it the other day, said, nope, not doing it, not breaking up the big three. So it doesn't surprise me Devin Booker's not interested either. And I think there's a world where the Suns are a little bit better next year, but I think it's probably more of the same. I think they'll maybe look a little different roster wise around those three guys, but I just don't know how they're going to climb all that much in the Western Conference, given the teams behind them. There's some that are going to be, I think, moving up, and the teams that are in front of them. It's hard to really pick teams that it's like, okay, well, they'll be better than this team and this team and this team. I just don't necessarily see that.
Well, and Kevin Durant will be a year older. We'll see, how that plays out. Obviously, he's not quite the defensive player that he once was. And I think that's really the crux of the problem for the Suns, is that we're starting to see we're in an NBA where they've consciously decided that they do not want stars to all wind up in one spot. They want stars to be distributed. They want fans across the league that feel like their team has a shot. They want things to be cyclical. They don't want dynasties anymore. They don't want these teams just getting to the top and staying at the top forever. They want there to be a life cycle here. And with that being the case, they have gone out of their way to try to de-incentivize or disincentivize the idea of 3 stars or superstars teaming up and all that sort of stuff. And so I think what it underscores is that if you are going to do it in this environment, if you're going to add stars together, it has to be the right stars. You can't just throw 3 stars together anymore that don't necessarily have complementary skill sets, and it's going to work out, and you're still going to have a roster that's deep enough. No, those 3 stars have to fit perfectly, because you really have to thread the needle more than you had to, say, 5 years ago in the NBA, when it was just, hey, throw 3 stars together and off you go, and life is going to be good. So I think that's where the Suns are at. You've got 3 guys that are all at their best scoring the ball, and none of them are great defensive players. Certainly Kevin Durant back in the day may have been, but he's not now. That is a big problem for them to overcome. And the NBA is set up so that they can't overcome that. That's part of the new CBA. It's set up to make it so they're not able to overcome a flaw like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Suns handle this now moving forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's no easy outs for them right now, because I know some people say, well, trade Durant or trade Beal, and Beal's hard to trade, because even if you find a perfect trade and he's like, nah, I don't want to go there, then you're stuck. You can't do it because that no trade clause still maintains with him. And then Kevin Durant, that's not an easy decision to say trade Kevin Durant. I know, because people can pull up a trade machine or fire up 2K and trade him. They think that that is an easy thing, but that's not an easy thing to do. So you're just in a spot where you got to kind of ride this out a little bit and see. I think the natural way this plays out is in 2 years, Kevin Durant's contract expires. I think there's a good chance we'll see him move along at that point, and then that's when you can start to reset things a little bit around Devin Booker, and that's a big part of why you're not going to trade, because unless you're saying at that point, all right, things really went so badly on us, we got to fully rebuild this thing. Then maybe you look to move Booker, but I think the idea will be, all right, we've got Booker, who is a star player in this league, and now we have a bunch of flexibility. We're going to rebuild around him and move it forward from there. So I think that's where we could see this all go.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Well, things will be interesting in Phoenix. It's going to be a hot summer, as always, in the desert. Let's jump over. We're going to jump on the 10 and we're going to head on out to LA. Let's talk about the Lakers, the coaching update, a few different things going on right now. First and foremost, there being word getting out. Funny how these things happen, that LeBron James has essentially distanced himself from the coaching search. He's not going to have a say in who becomes the coach. I've talked about this quite a bit for Lakers Nation, that I think this is just, look, even if LeBron wants, say, JJ Redick to be the head coach, he's not going to want the perception that JJ is the coach simply because LeBron wanted him to be. And so LeBron distancing himself, if the Lakers do arrive at the decision that it should be JJ Redick, will at least provide a little bit of credibility, because that would be tough in the locker room for a head coach, for especially a guy who's never coached before, to walk in and everybody kind of know, oh, that's LeBron's guy, right? Like that's a difficult situation. So it makes sense that LeBron is kind of distancing himself from it. Plus, he got a lot of flack for the Russell Westbrook thing. So LeBron's just saying like, hey, I'm hands off, the front off. They're going to make the decisions they want to make, and off we go from there. Of course, his opinion is still going to matter in LA. It's the front office, I'm sure, is still going to be thinking about what's LeBron going to want, because he's got that player option. But at least he's trying to distance himself from the situation. News came out this morning too that the Lakers did interview the three primary candidates so far, being Sam Cassell, James Borrego, and JJ Redick. And we'll see if they're able to come to a decision sometime soon. Keith, I've seen some chatter that, well, maybe the Lakers won't officially hire, if it's JJ Redick, they won't actually do that until after the finals, so that he can still complete his work with ESPN. How would that situation play out? Is there some, could they hire him and then have him stay with ESPN without getting into tampering rules and all that kind of stuff? Because otherwise you're talking about bringing him in like a couple of days before the draft starts, and that's a really tough spot to be in.
Yeah, my guess is how it would play out is the whole coaching search would go dry as far as news. We would hear nothing, and then if they're going to let him continue with ESPN, he would then get hired. Like you said, when the finals ends, if the finals go 7 games, that's June 23rd. The draft is on June 26th. So literally there's 2 days, 2 full days in between the two. So now here's the good news. JJ Redick should not have a whole lot to say in the draft process. That should be the front office and the scouting team's decision to make, and let him figure it out. This is not Greg Popovich or what was Bill Parcells' famous line about if they want you to cook the dinner, they should at least let you buy some of the groceries. Like, sure. JJ Redick doesn't get that sway as a first-time head coach of, all right, but now if JJ Redick comes in and says, hey, I'm going to play extreme small ball and we're going to full court press, well, then they probably don't want to draft Zach Edey, right? Because then that doesn't make sense. So, but that's all stuff they'll have an idea of if that's where it goes with that. But yeah, my guess is, let's say a week from now, if they said we're hiring JJ Redick, he's off ESPN coverage because you can't have him out there talking about guys. We heard how much when Mark Jackson was still being mentioned for jobs over and over again, how much of a challenge that was for like him and Jeff Van Gundy, because it was like they didn't fully feel like they could be critical of players and teams and different things, because I might be interviewing with them in a month or a week or whatever it is. So that's where that gets to be a very difficult situation. Now, in JJ Redick's case, it sounds like it's either the Lakers or maybe next year for him. So there should not be a whole lot of reason for him during the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals to be talking about the Lakers. Like they're out. There's not going to be a lot of reason to get into stuff there about them. So that part, he's not like he's going to be like, well, I think they blew it with roster construction and they stink.
Right.
Like, and then the Lakers are like, well, wait a minute, maybe we don't want to hire this guy. I I
Right.
I tend to think it'll be more of if it's going to be Redick, it will probably be here relatively soonish, and then they'll just go, or maybe they do the whole, all right, it's Redick, and we're not hearing anything, and then everything's kind of gone quiet. Now, where you run the risk of if something goes sideways with that, and let's say your next candidate was Sam Cassell, and now another team hires Sam Cassell, well, then now you're in a spot where it's like, oh no, like we missed out. So that's where can get a little sideways on you, but it'll all be in place, I'm sure, sooner rather than later. And then however it plays out, it plays out.
Right.
Because let me say this too. I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to feel like it probably is going to be JJ Redick. Like it just seems like the things we're hearing. It seems like too, like Anthony Davis is a little bit on board with that one, but there was reporting today he really likes James Borrego because they briefly spent time together in New Orleans. So I thought it was interesting in the piece. It totally makes sense. I just thought it was interesting to be noted that the team reportedly views this as a hire for the Anthony Davis Lakers more
Correct.
so than the LeBron James Lakers, which, yeah, right. At some point, this LeBron thing is going to end. At some point, who knows when? But yeah, if you're hiring a coach that you hope is your coach for the next 5-6 years, and Anthony Davis, and we know by virtue of his contract, he's your guy for the next 4 or 5 years at least. Yeah, then you're hiring a coach that's more comfortable with him and he's more comfortable with than worrying about LeBron, I guess, at this point.
Well, the expectation is, according to Shams, that LeBron's going to play maybe 2 more seasons. Maybe it's 1, but
Yeah.
1 to 2 more seasons is kind of what's out there that he's probably going to play. And then after that, they want whoever this coach is to be able to develop a post LeBron era. And what does that look like? And build a team around Anthony Davis. And how do you go about doing that? So that's one of the things that they're looking for. One of the boxes that they want to check with this coaching hire is to get somebody that can indeed help them win right now, but also can be their guy when LeBron is gone and it's AD and all of that. So that makes a lot of sense. And I know no team hires a coach. Well, almost no team hires a coach knowing that, hey, we're going to fire this guy in a year or two, right? Like that tends to not be the process.
Except apparently in Phoenix.
Apparently, right. Yeah. But it does happen sometimes. But in general, teams don't hire a coach thinking, hey, we're going to fire this guy in 2 years. But it seems like the Lakers very deliberately want somebody that at least has the potential to be their coach for the next 5 years plus, which is really, I mean, that's a lifetime in this NBA right now. If a coach sits for 5 years, that's incredible. That the Popoviches, the Spoelstras, the guys like that, that's very uncommon. If a coach has a lifespan of 5 years with a team, that's pretty impressive. So that's really what they're looking for. That's part of it. And being part of that post LeBron era is a big piece to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an important thing too, because there is going to be some level of resetting the roster. I'm not going to say they're going to go into a full on rebuild because I don't think that'll be the plan, not with Anthony Davis in the fold. But I think a reset of the roster is big. And that's where you want to have some stability, at least with the coach and the scheme and the style he wants to play. So you're going to get guys that can kind of fill that out a little bit and get the right kind of players in there. So I am very curious to watch and see how this all plays out with them. I will note too. I thought the phrasing of LeBron is expected to play up to 2 more seasons. I like the expected in there because that's very much all of us saying, but he might play 10. Like, who knows? Like, he's just going to do what he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. I also thought it was very funny. He's still undecided on his player option. Yeah, no kidding. He's not telling us till June 29th. Like, it's just, maybe the 28th if he's feeling charitable. We may get that. Well, I'm sure we'll get reporting in the next month of LeBron is leaning this way or another way or something like that. And some of that will be fair and some of that will be take it with a major grain of salt. But I've said this over and over again. Obviously, opts in, he's with the Lakers. even if he opts out, I don't think he's leaving the Lakers. There's nowhere else that makes sense to me for him to jump to right now to do something different. So I think he just stays right there. And all the I know people are getting super crazy with sign and trade possibilities and all the
Yep.
stuff that people like to get into with all that.
We're
And I mean, have
triggering
fun
hard
with
caps
it.
like crazy over here, Keith.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, hard caps left and right, and asking Eric Pincus every 5 minutes would this be like a hard cap for the Lakers? With that, so yeah, it's but that's part of silly season. That's part of what all this is about.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's a fun time. But again, right now we're all just on pins and needles waiting for some kind of news on who the Lakers ultimately will hire. And as of this moment, they're still going through the process. The Cavs have not fired JB Bickerstaff up to this point. So they're
Wizards
kind of
still
the
haven't hired a coach yet, so
right.
not exactly swimming in the same pool of candidates, but yeah.
Correct.
All you got to do, Trevor, is just let everybody know when is the most inopportune time for this news to drop for you personally, and that's when the Lakers will announce
That's
it.
when
So
it will
just
happen. Well,
yeah.
I'm not planning a vacation till the end of July. So
Oh man, if it's
otherwise
still
that
going, then we have all kinds of problems.
I have this deep fear that something will still be going on then. But no,
Like Jalen
I mean
Brown
I've
signing a supermax extension on the day I get on board a cruise ship. Yeah, sure, that was fun.
exactly. Exactly. That was a good time. That was a good time. But no, you're right. And whenever is the worst time, like I've got to take my dog to the vet in a little bit. That's probably when it'll happen. That's
Yep,
probably when it'll happen.
probably.
So,
Yep.
all right, let's go to the conference finals. Let's give our series previews and predictions here. We're going to start with Pacers Celtics. Keith, I haven't looked at the line yet today. Last I looked, the Celtics are going to be a heavy favorite, regardless of what the number's at. The Celtics are the heavy favorites here to beat the Pacers. This is not a. This reminds me, and again, I'm going to sound like I'm disparaging the Pacers. I like the Pacers. I think they're on the upswing. I think they could become something eventually. But this very much reminds me of like the Hawks making the Eastern Conference Finals. Like somebody had to make it. Somebody had to be there. I don't think this is necessarily a testament to the quality of the Pacers. Now, if they shoot 67% from the field, then anything is possible, right? But I don't see the Pacers as a legitimate like conference finals caliber team. I think it's just the weakness of the East, and they were the team that happened to still be standing. It could have been any of these teams. And I wish I could say they stand a chance. I don't think they do.
Yeah, I think it's a combo of the weakness of the East and the fact that everyone in the East was hurt. By the
Exactly.
time we
Yeah.
got there, and it's funny because I include Boston in that. Like, I get it; they're better equipped to handle an injury to a starter than almost any other team in the league. But the
Sure.
Celtics haven't exactly walked through this thing fully healthy either. They are missing one of their best players in Kristaps Porzingis. So I'm not asking for anyone's tears or anything by any means, and I know I'm not going to get them. But it is like they also have not been healthy. So yeah, we're in just a spot where, let's face it, the Pacers got the Bucks without Giannis, without Dame for some of that series, and rolled through them. Then they got the Knicks with, by the end of it, it was Alec Burks' show. Like,
Yeah.
that's no, nothing against Alec Burks, but that's not where anybody thought that was headed, and they were able to get through them. I think that's the single biggest thing now is, even without Kristaps Porzingis, the Pacers are going to see a whole different level of team. And I know people keep saying, yeah, but so are the Celtics because they're better than the banged up Heat. And they're better than the banged up Cavaliers. Yeah, that's probably true. And they're definitely a better offensive team than either one of those teams. But I think my ultimate thing on this series is they are the better team. And these are, if you go by the numbers, the two best offenses in NBA history. And the Celtics also play defense, and the Pacers don't. And I think that's the single biggest difference
And that's it.
in this series is Boston plays defense. There's just a lot more matchups that lean the Celtics way, and that's I feel pretty confident in picking them. And I'm going to get the smudgeness comments again. I don't like your smudgeness with this, but it's yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty confident that Boston's going to win.
I mean, look at it this way. I'm just looking at this right now. The Celtics are a 10.5 point favorite tonight.
in game
It's
one.
the Eastern Conference Finals. This is not a random Wednesday in January and you're playing the Pistons. This is the Eastern Conference Final. These should be the two best teams in the conference. You know, I'm looking and you look over across the way. I think 1 through 8, with the exception of maybe the Pelicans because they were injured, I think 1 through 8 in the West would beat this Pacers team.
Yeah, I don't know if the Clippers would have by the point they were at by the end of
Okay,
that series. I mean, maybe
maybe.
not. But yeah, definitely. The Pacers they would not have made it through the West to get to the West Finals. I
Right.
feel very confident in saying
Sure.
that. Yeah, I agree with you.
So if the Pacers are going to give the Celtics any kind of problems, what needs to happen is they have to execute on the offensive end at an extremely high rate. And you need the Tyrese Halliburton has been inconsistent lately. There's been moments where he's looked like the guy from the beginning of the season. There's been moments where he hasn't. And
sometimes
he's
in
going
the same
to
game too.
Sometimes you're absolutely right. He's going to have to be the game 7 against the Knicks, Tyrese Halliburton, because he was that guy again. He looked fantastic. That's number one. If the Pacers are going to be any kind of a threat, they need Tyrese Halliburton to be the, oh yeah, I get why he's on Team USA guy, right? Like that's what they're going to need. I think they're also going to need Pascal Siakam's got to be big for them. He's going to have a really big series. Not going to be easy, of course, but he's going to be critical. Their two top guys have got to be great. And then defensively, when I look at Nesmith, when I look at Nembhard, both those guys are going to have to really do work on the wings, slowing down Tatum, slowing down Jaylen Brown. Those guys can be pesky. They're a lot of fun to watch. They have their big moments, but they've got their work cut out for them defending on the perimeter. I know Siakam's going to get his reps there too. So there's a couple of things that are going to need to go their way. And then ultimately, Miles Turner has got to show up too. Like, I mean, I know I'm just basically going through the whole roster and saying everybody has to show up, but they do. Like, they all are going to have to be great. And that's the whole thing. There's no margin for error for the Pacers.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. You get to, well, Boston, if Drew Holiday's off, or if Jason Tatum has an off night, or Jaylen Brown, or Derek White, like you just at this point assume, all right, other guys will step in. With the Pacers, it's almost like you're like, these guys, not only can they not have an off night, they have to be awesome. And that's kind of the whole point I get to with this matchup here is I just think the Celtics are just a vastly better team. Now, couple things that I think give the Pacers a real chance here is they actually limit 3-point attempts better than any team in the NBA. They allowed the fewest per game 3-point attempts. Then when you adjust it for pace, it's even better because they play at the one of the fastest paces in the league. So they limit, and that's something that Boston really wants to get to. Is they want to get up a lot of 3-pointers. Part of what Joe Mazzulla has done the last 2 seasons has really turned it into a math problem. It is, we're going to take a lot of threes. We're probably going to make more threes than you make. And that's how we're going to beat you, is that way. I keep repeating this, but it's about every 6 to 8 games. We're going to have a really bad shooting night. And if you have a really good shooting night that night, you're going to beat us. And they'll tip their cap and they move along. They are 72-20 right now through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, plus the regular season. That didn't happen by mistake. That happened because they are excellent. They are a very, very good team. So we're just in a spot where I feel that confident in the Celtics getting this win. But I'll say this too. The Pacers, they will want to try to go up and down and score points. But it's funny, if you ask Celtics fans and Celtics media, we'll all tell you the exact same thing. We would love it if they would play faster all the time, because they are way better when they play fast. They just don't do it. So that's where the Pacers, it's such a fine line between, let's turn this into a run and shoot game where we are going up and down, we're scoring points, because that could go really south on them very quickly and turn into just, now there's an avalanche of it. I think in the series, I'll give my pick right now. I'm picking Boston in 5. I think it'll play out similarly to the first 2. The Celtics I think they're going to win the first 2 at home in this one. Then they'll probably lose game 3 in Indiana. Pacers have been undefeated at home in the playoffs and have been great. They've been killing teams in the playoffs. It's a great home crowd that they have. I think they'll get that win in game 3. And then I think Boston will probably squeak one out in game 4 and finish it at home in 5. I'm a big believer in, if you believe in your team, if you believe you're the higher seeded team can win in 6, definitely. You should probably be closer to picking them winning in 5 at home, because it's hard to close out playoff games on the road, despite the fact that we just saw 2 game 7s go to the road teams. So I'm picking Celtics in 5. I think there's a lot more of a chance at Celtics in 5 than it is almost any other result in the series.
Agreed. Yep. I'm right there with you. That was going to be my pick as well. Celtics in 5. And I don't think it's going to be much of a challenge. Now, moving over to the West, this is going to be a fascinating series. This is so interesting. All the different potential matchups. How much are the Mavs going to target Mike Conley? What does that look like for the Wolves defense? What do the Wolves do to try to do they go at Luka? How do they exploit that? There's so many different things that we've got here. The Mavs being the bigger, more physical team against OKC, now getting thrown into a matchup where they are not at all. How do they adjust to that? This is going to be a really fun series. I think it's going to be a really close one. And Keith, this is the one that I can't wait for. Like, to me, Celtics, Pacers, I don't even know that I'll watch a bunch of. It's not appointment viewing to me because it's kind of a foregone conclusion. This one, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat because I could make a case for either team to come out of this thing.
Yeah, I think this is going to be phenomenal. Like you said, there's so many matchup variations we can see in this. And the Mavs have kind of been the bully on the block in their first 2 series.
Mm-hmm.
They got a weakened Clippers team that they really kind of punished. They were the far more physical team against the Thunder. That's not going to be the case going against the Wolves. The Wolves are going to throw a lot of different stuff. There's going to be times, Anthony Edwards said it at the end of game 7, my matchup is going to be Kyrie. But I bet there's times when he picks up Luka, you're going to see McDaniels play. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker has a huge role to play in this series because he's one of their other better options to defend either Luka or Kyrie at times in this series. So like he's going to be big. I think we may see like Monte Morris reemerge some in this series. We talked about it just the other day. You start out with, you play your 9-10 guys. And then as you need, you cut it down. And if it gets to 7, both sides are usually playing about 6-7 guys. And that's where you go to. It's where the Wolves got to against the Nuggets. They were down to Reed and Alexander Walker played. And Kyle Anderson was in there for like a cameo when Cat got in early foul trouble. So I can't wait to see how it goes. You've got star power too, because there are guys, whether it be Ant or Cat or Luka or Kyrie, those are all guys that you could, if you told me all 4 of them have a 50-point game in the series, I probably wouldn't even argue that much because I'd be like, okay, it's probably not going to happen. But I'd be like, all right, sure. If that's where it's going, I can't wait. I think this is going to be a really big thing. I think what's going to be key is how physical do the officials let it be? Because the more physical they let the games be, the better off it's going to be for Minnesota. Because Luka and Kyrie will go foul hunting. And if they're getting all sorts of calls, it's going to be a little bit tough on the Wolves, I think, to keep them off the line. And that's a way they'll keep themselves in the game. But, man, I'm with you. I am fired up. I'm also extremely excited. These games all tip at like 8:30 Eastern, so that's really great. Like I'm not going to have to be up till midnight watching games, which will be fun. But yeah, man, this is going to be phenomenal. I'm super excited for this series.
You know, when I look at this series and I think about what these teams are known for, I think that not enough credit is being given to Dallas's defense and how good they've been, how much they've improved there as the season's gone on, the intensity they've shown on that end of the floor. I think that's going to be critical when we look big picture. It's the Wolves are the better defense. There's no question. The Wolves might be the best defensive team in the league. They're certainly one of the best defensive teams in the league. Can the Mavs be close? Can the Mavs be close? If there is a big gap between the Wolves defense and the Mavs defense, that ultimately is probably going to carry the day for the Wolves. If it's close, though, if the Mavs can do some things that force the Wolves into some tough shots, that we saw Denver's defense do in the first half of Game 7. I thought Denver's defense was fantastic. It was maybe the best defensive performance we had seen from them up until the second half. If they can put the Wolves into some tough spots where the Wolves offense starts to get rattled, where things start to slow down a little bit, where Anthony Edwards can't bail them out, then this gets really, really interesting as a series, because that's where I think the offensive firepower of the Mavs will really be allowed to shine when you look at just what kind of creative stuff Luka is going to be able to do, what kind of creative stuff Kyrie is going to be able to do. I think they're the more dangerous, the Mavs are the more dangerous offensive team, but the question is, can they make up that gap on the defensive side of the ball? And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. The Mavs defense, can they keep close with that Wolves defense in terms of their quality, in terms of the forcing turnovers and forcing tough shots and all of that? Derek Lively in the middle, Daniel Gafford in the middle. Both of these guys are great. I like the 1-2 punch that the Mavs have there, but they are going to be tested big time in this one against a supersized Wolves lineup that just keeps coming at you. You know, you've got Gobert, you've got Towns, and then, oh, hey, off the bench, it's the sixth man of the year. It's Naz Reid coming at you, who's great attacking closeouts and can create some problems inside and is going to stretch the floor and pull you out to the three-point line. So the bigs on Dallas are going to be really tested in this one. And like you said, Keith, I can't wait. This is going to be a blast. And I think both of these teams, either one of these teams, can make it through to the finals. And I've got my favorite here who I think is going to make it, but I'm in no way certain of that being the case.
Before we make our official picks, as you were like talking, I started getting like that like tingly, excited feeling of like,
Your spidey
oh
sense?
man, I'm so fired up for this. Yeah, like I love when it is they're like you just as you started talking about, I'm like, man, there's like 20 different ways things could
Right.
play out in this series. And that just makes it so fun because I think ultimately what this comes down to is I trust Luke and Kyrie will show up offensively. I trust Cat and Ant will show up offensively. It really is going to come down to what other guys make shots. It was PJ Washington for the Mavs in the first couple rounds. For the Wolves, it's been Jaden McDaniels at times. It's been Mike Conley at times. Heck, it was Rudy Gobert making turnaround jumpers to bury the Nuggets. Like, which is if that becomes a big part of the Wolves' offense, I'm picking the Mavs in three. Because that's not going to be a thing. But yeah, it is going to be really. That's to me ultimately what will decide the series because I think the best players will show up. One of the best players will have a stinker on both sides at some point. That's just how it goes. But I think those guys will show up when it matters most. It's going to be who is the third, fourth, and even fifth guy to show up and give a team solid minutes, make a big defensive play, and most importantly, hit a few shots. So I'll just remind you of your pre-playoffs pick.
Oh no.
Was Mavericks over Celtics.
Oh no.
That was your pre-playoffs pick. We won't hold you to that if you're changing now. That's fine. Well, that still exists as its thing. But we've said all along, we don't pick every series at the beginning. We pick them as they go, but we did make our true finals picks. Mine was Celtics over Nuggets, so half of that's already shot. So where are you going, Wolves, Mavs? Let me hear it.
Oh, I know. So I picked the Mavs going in as my kind of dark horse team that was going to make it through. Obviously, that looks good now. I think I got to flip and I got to go Wolves though. Defense wins championships, and I think that the Wolves defense is going to carry the day for them. The Mavs are really good, and this is Keith. When I say I've got a slight lean here, this is like a 55-45 type pick, where I think I think it goes 7, and I think it's that close of a series where I think the Wolves win. But I could, in my brain, 20 times today, I could switch and convince myself that it's going to be the Mavs. I think this is going to be a great series. I'm going to lean Wolves just slightly, though.
I'm with you. So you Wolves in 7? Is that you're going Wolves in 7?
Yep.
I'm going with the same pick. So we'll go through it here in a second. I've got ground to make up, man. You're kicking my butt in these predictions so far. So I almost went with the Mavs just to make up the ground to give myself the chance. But I can't. I'm going to pick Wolves in 7 too. I'm in the same place as you. This might be one though where I don't know if I'll get there fully publicly, but in my head, I might change my pick like game to game or like half to half, where it's kind of like, oh man, the Mavs are going to get them. Like they found something that works, and then it'll be like, oh, the Wolves countered. Okay, like it's just going to be a really fun series. So we'll go through it very, very quickly here because I know you have to run. But first round, you hit on 3 series exactly. You had Cavs in 7, Pacers in 6, and Mavs in 6. We both only got 2 wrong, which were
That's pretty good.
or like fully wrong, which was I had the Bucks beating the Pacers. We both had the Suns. So and then yeah, I'm sorry, we got 3 because I picked the Clippers to beat the Mavericks, and as you said, with your heart, you picked the Lakers to beat the Nuggets.
Correct.
My ones I got exactly right were Cavs in 7, Knicks in 7, and Nuggets in 5. In the second round, we both got Celtics in 5 correct. We both picked Knicks in 6, so we both got that wrong. Then I picked Mavs in 7. You picked Mavs in 6, so you hit that one right on. And I picked Nuggets in 6. You picked Wolves in 7. So right now, you have picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 series spot on, team and games, and then you've had the winner in a couple others from there. So we're both on Wolves in 7, both on Celtics in 5. So we'll see. That'd be
I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket. I think that's
you should as
that
you
only
have
makes
to
sense.
finish. Maybe do it before you go to the vet. Vets are expensive. Like
That's true. That's true. I may need maybe I'll need the lottery ticket to help pay for the
right. So, real quick, we should run through it just very quickly. All defense teams came out while we've been recording. All defensive first team. Remember, this is positionless now, and this is going to show up big time here, especially in the first team. It's almost like they. I think a lot of the voters, if we got them to tell us, they're like, I still didn't feel good about picking all bigs, but I just put all the bigs on the first team. So Rudy Gobert, 99 out of 100 votes, or 99 votes out of 99. Again, we said this yesterday. There was only 99 ballots submitted this year. Victor Wembanyama was the second most first team votes with 86. Bam Adebayo at 73. Herb Jones of the Pelicans, 66. He's the lone non-big. And then Anthony Davis had 60 first place votes. So no issue with any of those, really. I don't like the position list for all defense. I wish they stuck with it because I think positions are where it still does matter on defense more than anywhere else. But whatever, all those guys are deserving. I'm fine with all of them. Second team, and I'm not going to go through all the voting because none of them were really close to making the first team. Alex Caruso, Jalen Suggs, Derek White, Jaden McDaniels, and Drew Holiday. So 4 guards on the second team, 2 wings, and then 4 bigs. So, and that's kind of where it's gone to in the NBA. It's you set your rim protection with your bigs, you set your point of attack defense with your guards, and then there's usually a couple of standout wings. I guess Caruso is more of a wing than he is a guard, and Holiday defends bigger guys. So you can mix and match that however you want, but none of those are egregious to me. I don't have an issue with any of those players that made it. I don't really have an issue with any of the guys on any of the teams. Nobody's jumping out to me as like, this guy should have made it and didn't. I'm sure people are already reacting and angry about certain players. But I'm fine with it. I think the voters got it more or less right.
I think this is, if anything, this tells you that Victor Wembanyama is probably going to dominate the depoy category for a while. That's going to be a thing. His name will be on that trophy quite a bit if, as a rookie, he came in second and got that many votes. So that's probably starting next year. It will be the
only voting he dominates too.
Right. The reign of Wemby. It's coming.
It's coming, yeah. And he may I wouldn't be surprised if he starts dominating finals MVPs here fairly soon, if not. Yeah. I openly said to a bunch of Celtics people the other day, like, they better get busy and win one if they're gonna do it with this group, because I don't know how much longer that window is open with where the Thunder could go and with Wembanyama coming. And I'm honestly far more worried about the reign of Wemby than I am just about anything else happening. So yeah, he's a special player, man. He's something else. Like, it's just, and he just does these defensive things where it's like, what just happened? He easily led the league in. I need to rewind that because I don't understand what I just watched. It plays this year. That 1-2 that stands out, I think it was against the Grizzlies. It was a 3-on-1 and 3 different guys passed up shots because he was the only guy back. Yeah.
It's like trying to play against Reed Richards. Like I mean, he just anytime you want, it's like, oh, I'm all the way across the floor. Cool. I'll just reach my arm out. No big deal.
Yep. Yep. Now the big one's tomorrow, All NBA, and there are some contract implications on that.
Yeah.
We'll cover those when that one comes out. But yeah, that's I believe that's tomorrow. I think that is tomorrow. The All NBA comes out. That's our last one we don't have. So I'm pretty excited because there are a handful of guys that are going to be in potentially different contractual spots, whether they make it or not with that one. So that's going to be something we'll definitely be monitoring here very, very closely.
Absolutely. We'll cover that one tomorrow on tomorrow's show. For now, thank you everybody for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications as well. Until next time, we'll see you and stay safe.